Intuition, algorithms, learning. This is what we will be talking about today. If you're unfamiliar with what intuition is, it's that gut feeling that you get. We've all experienced it. Don't go down that path. I don't know how I knew that. These things are... Intuition is a gut reaction that we all have that guides us, and our brain is coalescing, I don't even know how many points of data based on trial and error experiences and finding a familiar pattern that you're experiencing or interfacing with. And your intuition, also referred to as your gut, formulates a assumption based on patterns it's seen prior, and then decides or gives you that feeling based on good vibes or bad vibes. Today I would like to share my experiences with it, its shortcomings, and how to better understand and deal with your own intuition. A couple of things to develop it really quick: grounding techniques, going out for walks, meditation, yoga practices, reading, anything that will absorb you in the present moment and ground you, more or less. And so the reason why you want to be present is your body is more apt at processing and understanding if you're not thinking about what you said to someone last week, or maybe wishing you had said or done something different in a situation, or thinking of a comeback in the shower or in bed to something that you could have said. These are all things that really hinder the process of your intuition, because I heard this great story. Two monks off on a stroll, and one of them sees this woman who's trying to cross a river but can't, and one of the monks picks the woman up and takes her across the river. And so a couple hours later, the other monk says, "Yo, monk, why did you do that? We're not really in the business of doing things like that. We have our own spiritual mission." And he looks at him and says, "Are you still carrying her?" All to say, he was still carrying that thought in his mind instead of being in the present moment. And that gets in the way of your intuition. And so it's just this fast and quick yes or no decision when your body or your mind doesn't have the time or energy to overthink. It's a very efficient, not always true, and we'll get into this later, not always true assumption of a pattern that you're in front of currently. One of the simple examples I came up with was, imagine two cavemen stumbling across a tiger for the first time. Our ancestor, the one who was grounded and present, listened to his intuition by sensing danger. The other cavemen, who did not become our ancestors, wanted to pet the cat and died. Nowadays, it isn't so much about life and death. It's more of, like I said, don't go down that alley when it makes your stomach turn. Or even if you've ever experienced driving somewhere and you don't know how you got there, that to me sounds like an intuition sort of just taking over. It knows how to drive. It recognizes patterns of brake lights, turning speeds, all of this sort of stuff. But so its shortcomings. Some of its shortcomings would be not necessarily weighing out what it is you're intuiting. By that I mean you can develop a certain type of bias towards things. If you're in a familiar situation and you intuit that X will happen, you kind of have to use more than just your intuition. You kind of have to filter in some logic. Otherwise, you could be just falling into a bias trap, and you don't necessarily want that. At least a little distracting. So, introducing some logical critical thinking into your intuition practice will help you better navigate whether you're consciously biased against something. Maybe you want something to happen, so your intuition is leading you towards that sort of thing. I would encourage you to think critically about the situation. I would encourage you to always think critically, but if you're trying to intuit, predict the future, use a lot of logic. One example I can think of is, I always forget this name, it's David Shapiro, I think. He's a doctor in something, and last summer, summer that GPT-4 came out, he said AGI will come this summer or next summer, whatever it was. And I remember instantly watching the video and being like, no, that's a bad take. We have to think logically. Central processing units currently, I don't think have the power or even the physicality to do some of the things that an AGI or humans would do. I think there needs to be a huge leap in either quantum processing units or wetware, so whatever it is that the squishy mold does can do in a computer. Because right now, computers are very much just, or processing units are very much just brick walls. They run code and that's what it is. In order to intuit something, I think, or to fully intuit something, I think you need to have this like squishy membrane that can adapt and change to new stimuli. But as someone who has a doctorate in what I would imagine is a closely related field to artificial intelligence, Dave Shapiro wants AGI to happen. So his predictive prowess is shrinking the time because he wants it to happen. And I even remember almost instantly watching that video. Like, it's close, but I still think the LLMs that we see are beta versions or even alpha versions of artificial intelligence. And if you want to watch me talk more about that in like a structured essay type of way, I did a video not too long ago about that. If you want to check that out, find it. I don't know. I'll link it in this one if you actually want to know. But I think what I'm trying to get at here is intuition is a special invisible muscle that humans have that we exercise by living and experiencing things. And the more that we live and experience and think critically and logically, the better we can hone this predictive prowess that we all naturally seem to have. Now, I want you to go ahead and think about the last time your phone predicted a text, or whenever a video platform serves you up a video and you actually really like it. What do you think is happening? That's a modern algorithm at play. And what the algorithm is doing is a sophisticated pattern recognition. I'm using the term software very loosely here because it's trained on a set of data and flags certain patterns and then is given a certain amount of new data and is using its compilation of flagging corresponding patterns in data to go ahead and predict the next thing. So if you watch a bunch of videos on puppies and you just keep doing that for a while, eventually I feel like I know the algorithm will serve you up a video about how to train a dog or what to feed a dog and all sorts of things like that. I'm here to suggest today that I think machines have developed a type of intuition, one developed by engineers instead of evolution. The machines aren't following a script. This isn't a program that you can launch and it just predicts what Caleb wants to watch next on YouTube. It is almost as if it has the same invisible muscle that humans have, in which our consciousness and subconsciousness and unconscious are all somehow coordinating and working together to provide a predictive outcome based on trial and error experiences. And I would argue that the modern algorithms are doing exactly that. So like, for example, you don't need a calculator or a dictionary in front of you to understand if someone's lying to you. You just sort of know. YouTube's algorithm isn't being given specific data about what people like to watch. It's trial and error running based on your experience on the website or TikTok or Instagram or whatever algorithm it is that you're interfacing with. Mine just happens to be YouTube. When someone's lying to you, you aren't even aware of a bunch of cues that they're putting forth. So when you know that they're lying, you can't necessarily pinpoint how you know. You just say, I know they're lying, or I have a feeling they are being distrustful towards me. This is all just running with or without your attention. It's processing infinite amounts of data all the time through your feet and your knees. All of these things are giving it data to make these sort of inferences to enhance your predictive prowess. And so it's exactly the same. These algorithms are trained on billions and billions of points of data, and they've been trained to know how to make connections, and it's just spitting them out. Predictions. Usually they're right. I don't think I've watched a video from like someone that I'm subscribed to in like 2 years. I surely subscribe to people and watch their videos every once in a while, but I would say 90% of the videos I watch are something that the algorithm has told me that I like. So much so that I have 2 YouTube accounts, one for science, philosophy, just sort of really learning, engaging content. And then my second one, I watch a lot of like Yu-Gi-Oh content, or if I want to look up something random, I usually go on that one so I can keep my other account very educational. So how-tos and dumb things like Yu-Gi-Oh and collectibles and how to make a pizza, and then science, philosophy, algorithms, intuition, learning, and more. These are 2 separate fields that I keep separate, and they don't ever really peer into each other. Every once in a while I feel like I do get across, but it's not the same on the individual profile. And a little bit on learning. I don't know how learning happens, but it's a same sort of thing. It's a coalition of data and experience that you're categorizing as important to know something. The best way I can kind of describe this is, imagine you have like 100 or 1,000 hours honing a skill or practicing a trade. You can learn about it, and that will be the introduction to doing it. But intuition will be, let's say in this skill or trade, a problem arises. And like I said before, your brain may be exhausted from being at work, or maybe it's a physical activity and your body is pumping more blood to your muscles than it needs to your brain. Well, since you have so much hours of practice in this thing, your intuition kicks in. You can't afford to overthink. You need something fast. You need a quick yes or no, do that, do this. And that's where your intuition, I feel, is different than learning. Learning is a jump start to intuition. And so I would argue that modern algorithms, when they're trained on data, it's more of like learning. And then the rest is just nonsensical psychic guessing. I just wanted to get on today and talk a little bit about that because it's been on my mind and I'm trying to intuit more. I think if you just consciously tell yourself that you want to intuit more, you start intuiting more. I've gotten a couple of really gnarly ones where split seconds before something happens, you just like know it. And it's so crazy when it happens to me because it's doesn't really feel like a guess. And it's, I would say 25% of the time it's this is about to happen or this is going to happen, and then it does. And then another 50% of the time I have that same sort of thought, and then my logic or my doubt sort of kicks in. And I don't necessarily know what's different between those intuitions. Maybe the feeling feels more visceral. I feel like sometimes you almost see it in your head, and then it happens, or you get the bodily sensation of it happening before it happens, and that feels more of like a real download than some other intuitions, because then some intuitions, and maybe it's when intuitions are far out, is when I start to critically think and like throw some logic in them, because it's like, all right, well, am I being biased? Is this something I want to have happen? Is this something I have a stake in? Are these things that I'm trying to predict something that will benefit me? All of these things I try to think around and see if there's a better intuition. And half the time in that 50%, you doubt it and you're wrong because your intuition was just right, and then sometimes you end up getting it right. The other 25%, I would say, is more of these biased intuitions, things that you intuit that you want to happen. And I'm not even going to get into like manifesting or what all of that is. My shoulder's killing me. I didn't do yoga routine, and my hip and my shoulder really needed it, I guess. I don't know. All of this to say, I think modern algorithms are expressing human-like intuition. I don't know if that is the beginning of conscious thinking. I want to wonder if intuition came before conscious thinking, or if conscious thinking... Is conscious thinking a byproduct of intuition, or is intuition a byproduct of conscious thinking? Which one came first, chicken or the egg? I'm almost willing to believe that intuition came first, since it's not really like a thinking thing, it's more of a feeling thing, and I feel like since humans didn't always have language, the intuition is what they went on. That's kind of all I have to say about that, and I want to just leave you with one question that I want you to answer in the comments. Are we seeing machines gain the invisible muscle that humans hold proudly, intuition? Or are we seeing ourselves in the machines? I hope you liked this video. That's about it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.